Hello, Stanley here, and welcome to the second video of our Clave journey. I'm sure right now, or by now, you've probably worked on the first video, because in this second video, we'll be transferring some of this knowledge or some of what we've learned from the first video, which are the stickings to enable us or to facilitate what we're going to be using in the second video. So if you've not checked out the first video, please do yourself a favor or do me a favor and check it out, because we'll be going so fast that if you don't know what's happening, it might be tricky. But it's not tricky, but always refer back to the first video, okay? Excuse me. So right now, we're going to go into a series of readings, breaking down series of reading using the Clave pattern, where, as you can probably see it in each of these readings or each of the styles or patterns that we're talking about today. So the first one is rumba. Rumba is actually Brazilian, but definitely it consists of the basically. So how do you play rumba? I mean, simple. There are different ways to go about it, but I'm just going to try to give you the basics. So the basics is you playing an eighth note on the right hand. 3, 4. Now, some traditional rumba players, I'm talking about those guys that reside in Brazil, they might decide to go 16 on the hand, like either way, it doesn't matter. I think what matters is you trying to interpret the music how you see fit. You understand? So if you can play or you can play it doesn't really matter. But I think sometimes you just have to try to attempt. That is the reason why we've got variation on the hi-hat. Variation simply means it doesn't have to be ole. It could be. It could be. Shuffle. Then it could be. So it's up to you, and I think it's advisable to practice different hi-hat variation, because at every point in any musical situation you find yourself, you should be able to look at your hi-hat variation back twos and pick one of them to use for that situation. Okay, so let's go back to the rhythm again. So basically what we're talking about is we can decide to spice it up a little bit, introducing different bass drum patterns. Examples. We can now add probably one of the popular bass drum pattern that is kind of like known worldwide, which is the Latin bass drum pattern, which is the backbeat. So it sounds like this. Add that, or better still, we could now probably take it faster, because there's a slower version of the rumba and there's a faster version of the rumba. So if it's faster, you have something like what rumba sounds like. Now you could add your stuff. Now it doesn't necessarily mean you have to use the rim shot. A few times you could go. It depends on what you want to do. So those are just few basic idea of the rumba. Now I don't want to go into too deep because on the third lesson I'll be showing you different ways of using your stickings and snare drum variation and bass drum variation to really create different variation for rumba. Now the next one is samba, which is basically similar to what we just talked about. Samba. People call it Latin. It could also be. It could also be. Now, you have to make reference. You have to always make reference to the or 2-3 or 3-2. That's what makes it the clave. Because if I just go without referencing it, it kind of like make me sound like I'm playing bossa nova, which is also another style that we'll be looking at though anyway. But samba is I mean, I don't know how else to describe it. Samba is samba. I mean, there are different samba. There's rock samba. Sorry. So the rock there is the there are lots of samba, there are different variations of samba, but time is not going to permit us to dive. Maybe at some point we might do a masterclass that would, I'll probably have time to break down different styles as regards breaking down each each variation or each beat. I mean, so we could really dive into them to have different ideas of how you could say jazz samba, Latin samba, funk samba, rock samba, stuff like that. But for now, let's just stick to the basics, okay? Now, having said that, samba could also be samba, depending on what you want to do. I think it's just a variation of different stuff that makes up the samba. Now the strike, this is probably somewhat close to the New Orleans second line drumming, pretty much. If you understand, New Orleans second line drumming is more of 2 hands on the snare, because if you listen to where we're coming from, we said samba. you understand second line drumming, you can tell the trait of a second line drumming in between it. So this is stride as it relates to the clave. See, it's somewhat related, just that with the stride, you play mainly, probably use the snare. And if you understand second line drumming or the New Orleans second line drumming, it's going to be easy. So I'm kind of like slow it down now. So what we have is pretty much simple. What we have here is you play probably 16 notes and mixing it up with some rough or 5-stroke roll or 7-stroke roll, depending on what you want to do. So I'm going to play simple or slower. You have pretty much so. Pretty much it. So you can do whatever it is you want to do with the stride. It's up to you. So there's no specific way to play it. It's all about you bringing your spicy, like I call them, into it. But the basic idea of it is just understood? So we're taking a step further now. So calypso, everybody know what calypso is. I mean, if you grew up in church or in the African church, you should know what calypso is. So calypso, basically, that's basically calypso. But it doesn't just end there. Again, different variations we could do, but you can see, you can still hear the. If you want to take it a step further, understand? Calypso. Now, if you want to refer it back to the 2-3 clave, for instance, because some people might say, oh, but we're just hearing. If you want to refer it back, you could do that by adding your right hand, by playing something with your right hand, which is so. interesting, take it to the right cymbal. You see, it's very, very relatable. Very, very relatable. So you can't just say because you're hearing it's not there, it's actually there, you could hear it. But sometimes it's not just be mobile. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. So it's actually on the 2, 3 of the 3, 2 clave. 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. Right there. It's right there. Sometimes you don't hear it, but it's there. You understand? Now I'm trying not to go ahead of myself because I could play so many different variations. At the end of the day, you may not necessarily understand what's going on, but I'm trying to make sure I limit it to basic stuff that we're talking about, which is the clave. You get it? So the last one we're talking about today probably will be the reggae. I mean, we all know reggae. Although now we've got different types of reggae. There's the natty reggae, there's the lovers rock, there's the English reggae, there's the roots reggae. I mean, there are different types of reggae. But for the context of today's lesson, reggae, 1, 2, 4, 3, 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 3. Now, somebody might ask, it's not there. How do you mean it? How can you say 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 3, 4, 1, 3, 4. Now, do you remember the first variation we talked about, which is the rumba? You see that? So you can see the correlation between the rumba and the reggae, because it's still the same thing. 1, 3, 4, 3. You see, it ends. The ending of the 1, 2, 3, 4. The ending of the 3, 2 clave literally falls right on the second bar when you're hitting the bass drum. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So definitely it's related. So if you want to use that in the context of playing reggae, for instance, you can now say 1, 3, 4. See that? So you can now say, okay, fine, you know what, let me garnish it a little bit, then you now have it 1, 3, So that should conclude our series for today on the clave being involved with this different beat I've talked about. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you've got some questions and you know what to do with your questions. I'll put my email address at the end of the video, and you could probably get in touch with the Trust and all of them. But anyway, thank you so much for today's lesson. And I hope you've learned so much, and I can't wait to see you guys on the third one as we wrap up the Clave section.